This tutorial is for the Vicenza mini bucket bag as well as the Vicenza medium bag. So what you'll need, of course, is the pattern, but you'll also need your leather, your suede, your jute, whatever fabric or material that you're working with. You'll need that. You will need, for this bag, you will need the hardware, which are D-rings. So you'll need 2 D-rings. You'll need your feet. So we have 4 of those. We'll need, and these are the screw posts. So for the feet, I prefer the flat feet as opposed to the elevated feet. Again, it's your option. You know, if you want whatever feet you want for your bag, then those are the feet that you purchase. So the process is going to remain the same, but your hardware, you can switch it up, get very creative, do whatever you want. So we have 4 feet, and these are the flat feet that I'm using. These are the screw post. Also for your handle, you're going to need screw post for your handle as well. And then you are going to need grommets. So these are the grommets that I'm using, which are relatively small. But again, your size of grommet is going to determine, one, the size of the string or the leather that you're going to pull through the drawstring. So the drawstring leather that I'm using is really small. So I also have really small grommets. But again, it's your choice. If you want something that's a lot larger than this, then just make sure you accommodate for the actual grommets. Now I use screw-on grommets because I love them. They are easy to work with, but they just look really good to me. The top is flat. They look a little more luxe. They feel more luxe. I feel like they are more luxe. They're heavier. It just looks really good. So we have those. We also have the little drawstring toggles, which you'll need 2 of those. So you'll need 2 of the toggles, and again, whatever toggles you decide to get, that is your option. You're going to need 4 feet. You're going to need 2 D-rings, and you're going to need 4 grommets. So what you also need to make sure you do prior to getting started is making sure you put all the markings in their proper place. So you want to make sure you have the proper placement for the grommets, all the lines telling you, okay, this is where I need to place the leather on top of the upper portion. I've already gone ahead and put all my markings, and I put all my holes also, that this is where like the grommets and the screws are going to go. That way it just makes the process a lot easier. So when making bags, a lot of the hardware that you choose and kind of the process and how you go about it is all going to be determined by the type of leather that you use. This leather is relatively, it's firm, but not too firm, right? So I have the option with this bag, because you want the bottom a little more stable. So you have that option. You can stabilize it, and there's different options in terms of stabilizing. And I also have kind of like a little booklet. I'll leave the link and you can download that. And it's pretty much what you need to know in terms of sewing with leather. So a lot of how you're going to construct the bag is going to depend on your leather. So what type of machine can you use is also going to depend on your leather. This is a relatively, it's thin, but with some stabilization. So I'm using my Sailrite with this, because also you're going to need to top stitch, and you're going to need to use a machine or hand stitch, because the top stitching needs to be really neat, of course. You're going to also need your stabilizer. So I just have a big roll of stabilizer. Whenever I need any, I can just go and cut it. So you'll need the stabilizer. This is for the handle, and this is the stabilizer that's going to be for the bottom of the bag. You're going to need leather double-sided tape. And I have this water-based contact adhesive, which I absolutely love this particular adhesive. It holds very well, but it doesn't like lock everything in place. So if you need to move it around, you have that option as well. And it's water-based, so if it gets on anything, you can just kind of like rub it and it comes off, so it's fine. But it's a good way to kind of like hold your work in place while you're stitching, or trying to figure out if you want the positioning in a certain place. So you'll need that. Of course, you're going to need something to put the adhesive onto your work. And I have these wool daubers, which you can get those on Amazon as well. I'll put a link here. You'll need these. I have bags and bags of them because I use them often, and they're really inexpensive. So I have everything cut out. I have every piece of the pattern cut out. What I have stabilized, I have that already done. And what I'm going to stabilize, I have that done. And I also have here what I'm using for the lining, which is this canvas. So I think that is about it. Also, I've gone ahead and used the edge coat for the edges of all the leather. I've done that already, and it's ready to put together. So once you have everything, the holes placed in everything, you have it edge coated, you have it cut out, you have all your markings. When it's time to actually go in to make the bag, the process is just a lot smoother, a lot easier. You can get through the bag in an hour and a half to 2 hours tops. You'll also, which I failed to mention, you will need clips. Clips are like crucial when you're working with leather. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so you want to grab the bottom bag, which is piece number 12. It's it should be labeled lower bag. And you also want to grab piece number 7 as well as piece number 3, which is the upper band and lower band. You want to apply your glue. If you don't have the glue, feel free to use your tape. And you want to make sure, if you're using the glue, that you completely cover all the surfaces on the lower and upper band. Once you do that, again, you want to let the glue just kind of get a little tacky. So wait like maybe a minute or two. And then we're going to affix the lower and upper band to their respective places. So of course the lower band is a little bigger and a little wider. That's why you can kind of differentiate the two. So you're going to put right across the leather or whatever medium you're using. You're going to put that across the bottom and then the other part across the top. So now you want to go ahead and stitch close to the edge on both sides. So the top and the bottom of the bottom band, the lower band, and top and the bottom of the upper band. Okay, so now you want to grab your 2 side straps, which are pieces number 6. And again, you want to make sure you have your markings already on the leather.
On the opposite side of the leather, go ahead and put your strap there, which is going to be the side seam strap. And then the other side strap, you want to have it butted up against the edge on the end there. Once you have your positioning, go ahead and apply the glue. Again, if you don't have the glue, you just have the double-sided tape, that's fine too, but I think the glue works better in these applications. And again, once you add the glue, just make sure it gets a little tacky before you move to the next step. Then once it gets tacky, you're going to go ahead and you're going to stitch. So for the side seam stitch, you're going to stitch down both sides. And stopping, not all the way up the top, you're just going to stop before the first band. Okay, so you're going to stitch, this is the middle seam, again, up to that first band. You're not going to stitch over that band. And you're going to do that on both sides. Again, not over that top band. So you're going to stitch on both sides of the side strap. Now for the end, you're only going to stitch on the left side because as you can see here, it's going to be folded over and then you're going to do that final stitch. But for now, you're only going to stitch on this one side. Again, not stitching on top of the upper band. So the upper band is going to be free of stitching for right now. Okay, so now what you're going to do is you're going to grab the D-rings and you're going to slide those over the side straps. Take a little bit of glue. Again, make sure it gets tacky. And then you're going to fold that over. And you're going to do that for both sides. And then what you're going to do is you're going to stitch. So you're going to follow this original stitch that you had, but now you're going to just take it all the way up to the top. So follow that same stitch pattern, go all the way as far as you can go to the top. Okay, so now what you want to do is grab the upper bag and just on the edge, you want to apply either your leather tape or your glue. And this is just the edge on the right side, the correct side of the leather or jute or suede or whatever you're using. Once that gets a little bit tacky, you're going to then put this on the wrong side of the bottom half, just kind of like that edge, which is roughly around 3/8 of an inch down. But on your pattern, just make sure you have that marked so you know where to place that. And now you're going to go ahead and stitch across the top. Okay, so once that's stitched, you want to grab piece number 10, which is the back bottom. You want to grab the stabilizer piece number 9, and you want to grab the second layer, which is piece number 8. You want to apply the glue on the bottom of piece number 8, which is the second layer. You also want to make sure, and this is just really important, and I'm going to preface this throughout, is that you have all of your markings done prior, you have your edge coat done prior, as well as you have your holes already done prior to getting started. So you want to put glue all around this entire piece, which again is piece number 8, the bottom second layer. You want to make sure it's completely covered. You want to make sure it gets a little tacky. Wait a couple minutes, and then you're going to apply this bottom second layer to the bottom right side of the piece number 10, which is the bottom. Again, you want to use something, take this like an awl or something, just to make sure those holes are lining up. And then you're going to go ahead and stitch, once that's dry, all the way around the perimeter of only the second layer. So now you want to go ahead and grab the bag bottom stabilizer, which is piece number 9. You want to affix glue to it all over. You want to make sure you really get every piece of this stabilizer with glue on it. Wait again till it gets a little tacky, and then apply it to the back of piece number 10, which is the bag bottom. So now what you want to do is install the feet. Again, I use the screw feet. I like them better. They're easier to put on once you have the holes already pre-drilled. So you want to do that. You want to put all 4 of those in. Now you want to grab pieces 4 and 5, which are the straps and the stabilizer. Go ahead and apply glue to the stabilizer only on one side. Again, make sure you get every little piece of the stabilizer glued. Let it sit for a few minutes and then apply it to one side of the strap. Then you want to take glue and put it all over the other strap, completely on every little corner of the strap. Let it get a little tacky. And then you're going to evenly put the 2 straps together. Make sure you press really well. And again, just let it sit for a few minutes. So I also like to just put a few clips in it. because it's really important that it doesn't shift. And then once you do that, go ahead and stitch around the entire perimeter of the strap. And you want to stitch close to the edge. So now you want to go ahead and grab the main piece and we're going to install the grommets. Again, I use the screw-on grommets, but whichever size and shape grommets you want to use, go ahead and do that and install all four of the grommets. So now what you want to do is you want to grab your lining, which is piece number 1, and your pocket, which is piece number 2. Now the pattern calls for 2 pockets. For this demonstration, I'm only doing 1. So you can go ahead and place with your double-sided tape the pocket onto the pocket lining where it shows you where the marking is to put the actual pocket. So you want to go ahead and place that and then stitch on the 3 ends. And you want to do that for the front and the back. So now what you want to do is put right sides together and you want to stitch down each side. So these long sides here, you want to stitch down. And the part kind of like the bite that's at the bottom where it's indented, you want to leave that open. But then at the very bottom, right in the corners, right here, you want to stitch in just an inch, or actually in half an inch on each side. So down the sides and then just half an inch at the bottom and leave the rest open. So once you do that, you want to then just open it up and then pin it flat, and then you want to stitch across the bottom, and you want to do that on both sides. And remember, while you're doing this, that bottom half is still going to remain open because you're going to need to keep that open so that you can flip it right side out when it's all said and done. So now you're going to take this top half here and you're going to stitch all the way across, crossing over the side strap bands. And you want to do that stitching close to the edge. And now what you want to do is you want to take some of the double-sided tape and you want to apply it to the edge here. And on the pattern, it says there's a fold over to this line and stitch. You want to fold this over to that line. Again, remember, you have to make sure you have the markings on the fabric. Put the double-sided tape on one side, and then you're going to fold this over. Making sure the seams are lining up. You want to do that all the way up. And then you're going to stitch. And you're going to stitch on that edge, the edge that's not sealed. So now what you want to do is turn the bag inside out, and you want to grab the bottom that's constructed, and you want to line the feet that's on the side with the side seams, and then fit as you go around, making sure it's really important at this point that you use all the clips you can, because as you go around the curve, you want to make sure you pinch that in to make sure it lays as flat as possible. And then you want to go ahead and stitch all the way around. So once you turn the bag right side out, you can use this tool, which is a tool that helps kind of like press out any of like the imperfections. When you turn a leather in, it kind of helps flatten it out. If you don't have one, that's fine. It'll just take you a little longer to kind of like press it out. And then what you want to do is put the bag inside the lining. Now this is right sides together. You want to make sure you line up the side seam. So you want to line up the side seam of the lining with the side seam of the bag. And then clip the bag as you go around. You want to make sure it's completely clipped so none of the lining slips out as you're stitching it. So you want to add the clips all around the perimeter of the bag. And then you want to stitch. So after you stitch, you want to go ahead and turn the lining to the inside. And then you want to kind of like hand press around the edge because this is where you're going to insert the leather drawstring. So you don't want to close it up yet at the bottom because you are going to insert the leather drawstring. Okay, so this part can tend to get a little tricky. So depending on what type of drawstring you're going to use, it's going to make this part a little more difficult or not. This one is really skinny, which makes it a little more challenging to get through. But anyway, so you're going to use two different pieces of your drawstring, whichever it is. You're going to fit one through one of the grommets in the front, and that same pull, you're going to put it through the other grommet in the back. So you're going to have a lot of the string that's left over. So what we're going to do with that string is we're going to basically make a funnel, and then we're going to close that funnel by stitching on the outside. So we're going to pull the one piece through the front and pull the other piece through the back. And we're going to kind of move it up into like kind of creating a tunnel for it. And then kind of scoot it up under the lining, between the lining and the outside. And then we're going to clip it to hold it in place. And because this is so small, it's a little more challenging to actually fill for it. But we're going to push that up in there. So remember, this one grommet that's on the left is going to go through the grommet in the back that's also on the left. So once you have it up in the little funnel part, we're going to use a few clips to just kind of like clip it in so that it doesn't move prior to you trying to stitch it. And we're going to do the same thing on the left side, on the right side as well. We're going to kind of make a little funnel and push that up there. When you have a thicker drawstring, it's a lot more simple to do it because you can actually feel it. So you've got to make sure that it's up there. And then go ahead and just use a few clips on it. That way it holds it in place. And I do it like this so that it doesn't create another hole inside the lining. So once you do that, just go ahead and stitch around, making sure you don't stitch between where the grommets are. So you want to stitch to the grommets and then the little space in the middle and then around. So now we're going to go ahead and add the toggles. And again, it's your choice, whichever type of toggles you'd like. But because this is such kind of like a dainty bag, I wanted like much smaller ones. And then we're going to close up the bottom of the bag. So we're just going to fold this in. And you can either hand stitch or you can stitch with your machine. It's going to be in the bottom of your bag, so it's completely your choice. Okay, now for the last step of the process, what you want to do now is install the handle. So you should have already made sure you have the holes punched in your handle where it states for the holes. And then you're going to slide one side of the strap into the D-ring and then install the screw-on grommets. Of course, like I've said before a million times, I use the screw-on grommets. They're so much easier. I promise you, they're so much easier. So you're just going to screw in the grommets and then have the other side, the other half of the grommet in the other hole, and then just simply put them together. Um, Use some type of flathead screwdriver and close it on up. And you want to do that for both sides. So that is it. If you have any questions, any comments, any concerns, let me know. Happy sewing.